All right, what's good, everybody? We are moving on now, lesson 0.2. Today we're going to be reviewing how to add and subtract integers. Remember, in lesson 0.1, we learned that integers are all numbers along an infinite number line. So that's all negative numbers, 0, and all positive numbers that do not contain a decimal. Okay? This is something that is super basic, but also super important. And unfortunately, even though it's basic, it can sometimes very easily make small mistakes. And when we make small mistakes, then unfortunately we get incorrect answers. Okay. In class, I'll ask if there's any questions from homework 0.1. Remember, our class motto is ask questions. So if you do have questions, if you did not finish your homework 0.1, this is the time where you ask. I really want you to ask and make sure you get that homework done. So please ask. If you are finished, go ahead and turn it into the inbox for your class period. Okay, the number line. We have a number line right up at the top in the front of our classroom. Using a number line is the easiest way to add and subtract numbers because all of the numbers are right there in front of you. Okay, everybody can count, and using a number line would be the easiest way because adding and subtracting is just counting. Okay, so we have a number line in the front of the room. Please use it. Positive numbers always go to the right. Negative numbers always go to the left of a number line. Okay, in my opinion, the most simple way to add and subtract integers is to use the number line. Okay, the first thing that you should do is always find the first number on the number line. So whenever number you have, right, let's just say you have 6 plus 3, right? Always find the first number on the number line. So find the 6 on the number line. Figure out if you're truly adding or subtracting. In this case, it's very obvious that we should be adding. Okay, and then we move to the left or the right the amount of the second number. Well, here's the second number. If we're adding, that means we're going to go to the right. We're going to find 6. We're going to go to the right 3. Okay, that's the most simple way that we can think of when we are adding and subtracting integers. Now, notice, let's scroll back here. In step number 2, it said figure out if you are truly adding or subtracting. Okay, so these are the rules that will tell you whether or not you are adding or subtracting. Okay, notice I just put number signs in there because it doesn't really matter what the number is. Okay, if you have a number plus a number, then that obviously is addition. If you have a number minus a number, then that is obviously subtraction. Okay, also moving on to step 3, if we have a number plus a negative number, that means that we are actually subtracting. And if we have a number minus a negative number, then that means we are going to end up adding. Okay, and again, remember, all of our addition problems, we're always going to go to the right. All of our subtraction problems, we're always going to go to the left. Now, notice, in front of the first numbers, I didn't put a positive or a negative symbol because in the end, it actually doesn't matter, right? The sign of the first number doesn't change whether or not you're adding or subtracting. You just always find that first number on the number line. The sign of the second number does make a difference, and that is why I ended up putting the negative signs there. Okay, so the sign of the first number does not matter. The sign of the second number does matter. Okay, so these are our rules. This is what tells us if we're going to go to the right or to the left. Okay, let's go ahead and do some examples. Notice I have put in a number line here for you to see. Some of these examples you might think, wow, Mr. Stanton, this is like really silly. This is really basic. I learned how to do this in kindergarten or first grade or something like that. But in my class, we will always start with very easy, very basic examples, okay? Because something that I like to say is if you can do the easy example, that means technically you can do the more complex example, right? Because the math always stays the same. We're always going to follow the same rules, right? Usually more complex math just usually actually means more steps, not actually more challenging, okay? So remember, let's go back to our steps. Step number 1, find the first number. Step 2, are we adding, are we subtracting, are we moving left or right? And then step 3, move left or right the amount of the second number, okay? So first example, very easy. Everybody knows what 2 plus 2 is, but I'm gonna make you do it using those 3 steps, okay? So first, find the first number. The first number is 2. Look, here is 2 on our number line. Okay, now we think, are we adding or subtracting? We have a plus, that means we're adding. If we're adding, are we going right or left? That means we're going to the right. Okay, so and then we go to the right how many times? We go to the right 2 times. Okay, so we start at 2, we go to the right 1, 2, and we see that we end up at 4. And again, everybody knows that 2 plus 2 is 4, but I want you to do it with the 3 steps, because as we get more complicated, I just want you to get used to how we do it. Okay, I'm gonna erase up here on the number line, but I'm gonna leave all those markings there. Okay, for the second one, find the first number. The first number is 3. Look, there it is, I found it. Okay, next, we look at the sign. Am I adding or subtracting? Okay, we are subtracting here. Are we gonna go, if we're subtracting, are we going to the right or to the left? We are going to the left. How many spaces are we going to the left? We're going to the left twice. So we are starting at 3. We're going to the left 1, 2. We see we end up at positive 1. Okay, moving on. Going to the next one. We start at negative 4. Okay, so here's negative 4. We're starting at negative 4. Then we look at the sign. We see that we're adding. Adding means we're going to the right. And how many spaces are we going to the right? We're going to the right 4. So negative 4 plus 4 means that we're starting at negative 4 and going right 1, 2, 3, 4. We see that we end up at 0. Okay, moving on, find the first number. First number is 2. Find it on the number line. Are we adding or are we subtracting? We see we are, oops, that's supposed to be in red. We see we're subtracting. We know that subtracting means we're going to the left. How many spaces are we going to the left? We're going to the left 7 times. So we're starting at 2, going left 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We see we end up at negative 5. Okay. One more time, starting over. We start at negative 1. There's negative 1. Are we adding or subtracting? We are subtracting. That means we go to the left. How many times are we going to the left? We're going to the left 3 times. So we start at negative 1, go to the left 1, 2, 3. We end up at negative 4. Okay, pause the video, see if you can do 6 through 10 on your own. Go ahead. Great. If you paused, amazing. Let's finish these up. Okay, the second half, they're more challenging. Okay, but again, more challenging doesn't really mean anything. It's just we have to pay more attention to the steps. Okay, we start at 2. We have plus a negative 3. Okay, if you need to, review. Plus a negative, we see that plus a negative here is a subtraction problem. Okay, so plus a negative is a subtraction. So even though there's a plus sign, we're adding a negative. So that means we're actually subtracting. And subtracting means that we are going to the left. How many times are we going to the left? We're going to the left 3 times. So we're starting at 2, going to the left 1, 2, 3. We end up at negative 1. Next one, start at negative 1. There's negative 1. We're starting there. Now we have minus a negative. Again, scroll back up if you need to. We see that if we have minus a negative is an addition problem. So that means here we are adding. And if we're adding, that means we're going to the right. And if we're starting at negative 1 and going to the right, we're going to the right 2 spaces. So negative 1, going to the right twice, we end up at positive 1. 3 oops, sorry, that's supposed to be in blue. We start at 3. We have plus a negative, which means we're subtracting, which means we're going to the left. We're going to the left 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We end up with -2. Starting at 2, there is 2. We have minus a negative, which means we are adding. Adding means we're going to the right. How many spaces to the right? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously, that we went off the number line, but I have full confidence that you could figure out that that was 8. And and the last one, we're starting at -5. Here is -5. Are we adding or subtracting? We have minus a negative. Once again, that means we are adding. Adding means we're going to the right. How many spaces are we going to the right? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We end up with -2. All right, so those are our examples using the number line. And again, in my opinion, the number line, just simply going left, simply going right, that's going to be the easiest way to add or subtract positives and negatives. Okay, now perhaps you've been taught this way. I was never taught this way, but I know that it's a popular thing now. Okay, for some people it might be a shortcut. Okay, one thing that I really want you to do in my class is to figure out what way works best for you. Okay, this is not the way that I learned, but it might be the way that you learned. Okay, if you like this way better, amazing. I want you to use it. If you like the way that I just taught better, amazing. I want you to use that. If you were even taught a third way and that's the way that you like to do it, great, do that. Okay, I want you to do what is best for you. Okay, so the way that we think about it this way is this: don't think about it as adding or subtracting. Think of them as 2 separate numbers and follow the rules. Okay, so if your 2 separate numbers have the same sign and they're both positive, okay, we're going to add the numbers. Since our numbers were positive, our answer is going to be positive. So example, 2 and 5, okay, they're the same sign. They're both positive. So we add them. 2 and 5 make 7. Because both the 2 and the 5 were positive, then the answer is positive. Now notice, if they're the same sign but they're negatives, you still add the numbers. Okay, so add the numbers without thinking about the sign. And because your original numbers were negative, that means your answer is going to be negative. So again, all right, like this example, we have -2 and -5. Okay, these are both the same sign, but they're negative. So we add the 2 numbers together. Just think of them as the numbers. 2 and 5 make 7. But because they were both negative, that means now our answer is also negative. Okay, now if the 2 numbers have opposite signs, then we're going to subtract the numbers. And remember, whenever we subtract the numbers, we are ignoring the signs. Whenever we subtract numbers, we always do the big number minus the small number. Okay, and then your answer is always going to be whatever number is bigger, that sign. Okay, so again, let's take a look at this example. Okay, here we have a +2 and a -5. Those are opposite signs. So that means we're going to subtract them without the sign. So we just think of the 5 and we just think of the 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. But again, the rule says that we take the sign of the larger number. What number is larger? -5. Okay, so since the 5 is larger and the 5 was negative, that means our answer is now negative. If we take literally the same numbers, but we change which number has the sign, again, -2, +5, those are opposite signs. We still subtract the numbers, big minus small, so we're still doing 5 minus 2, 5 minus 2, which is 3, but now we're taking the sign of the bigger number. This time the bigger number is still 5, but the bigger number is positive, so that means our answer is now positive. Okay, so don't think about adding or subtracting. Think about them as 2 separate numbers, and what are we going to do with them? Okay, same sign or different sign. Okay, here, -2, +3, same sign or different sign. These are different signs, which means we're going to subtract. Okay, we do 3 minus 2, which is 1. Now think, what number is bigger? We see that 3 is bigger. What's the sign of 3? The 3 is positive, so that means our answer is positive. Next one, same sign or different signs. Okay, we have a 3, and then we have a -8. Okay, so that means, remember we learned already, minus and a minus makes positive. So this is a +3 and a +8. Those are the same sign. So that means we add them together. 3 plus 8 gives you 11. And then since they're both positive, our answer is positive. Okay, next we have -8, but then we have a minus, which means that this is a positive. So we have a positive and we have a negative. Those are opposite signs. So different signs means that we're going to subtract. We always do the bigger minus the smaller. So we're always going to do 8 minus 2, which gives us a 6. Then we look at the bigger number. We see that the bigger number is 8, and we see that the 8 is negative, so that means our answer is going to be negative. Next, we have a negative. We have a negative. Those are same sign. Same sign means that we add. We ignore the numbers, the signs. We just do 14 plus 7, which gives us 21. Then we look at the sign. We see that both of them are negative. Therefore, our answer must be negative. Next, we have a negative. We have a positive. Those are different signs, right? Those are opposite signs. Different signs means that we subtract. We always take the bigger number minus the small one. So 14 minus 9 gives us an answer of 5. Then we look at the bigger number. We see the bigger number is 14. And since the 14 is positive, that means our answer is going to be positive. And the last one, we have a positive number. We have a negative number. Those are different, which means we're going to subtract. Always take the bigger number minus the smaller number. 8 minus 5 is 3. Then we look which one is the bigger. 8 is bigger. The sign of the bigger number is negative. Therefore, our answer is going to be negative. Okay, so those are our examples of the second way of how to think about it. Okay, this lesson is really, really short. Okay, real quick, I want to go over Google Classroom. Just a reminder, there's your class code, RMK6725. Okay, if I pull up Google Classroom here, remember, I don't like the stream page. Always go to the classwork page. Okay, at the top will always be beginning of the year stuff. And then every single chapter is broken down into 3 sections: slides, notes, and homework. Okay, you already did 0.1. You filled out the 0.1 notes by using the 0.1 slides, okay, and but doing the homework. Okay, so this is what your Google Classroom will always look like. Okay, please make sure if you haven't finished your surveys, both, right, the Get to Know Me survey and the Show Me What You Know survey, make sure you get those done, and then also make sure you're still working on your IXL diagnostic. Okay, so while you're in class, these are the things that you should work on, and these are listed in priority, right? Since you just finished lesson 0.2, you should work on that homework first. Okay, if you still haven't finished homework 1 from 0.1, work on that next. Then if you finished both of those, you should go and finish your IXL diagnostic. And if you're done with that, make sure that you have your Get to Know Me survey and your Show Me What You Know survey done. Okay, that's all we have for 0.2. Go Mustangs.